All right, deep divers, buckle up, because today we are diving into the world of AI voice tech. And, it's funny how we used to think that talking to our devices was some futuristic thing. And now, well, OpenAI's latest release has me wondering if they are reading my mind.
Yeah, you are not alone there. I think OpenAI is less about mind reading and more about pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible with voice AI.
Right, and you sent over some articles on their new real-time API and the audio features for chat completions. Wow. This is way bigger than just a software update. This feels like the moment that voice AI finally grows up.
It's a big step forward, to be sure. To grasp the magnitude of it, think about those early virtual assistants, like the really stuck voices, the awkward pauses, just that feeling that you were talking to a machine that could barely understand you. OpenAI is changing all of that.
Okay, so walk me through this. The article from InfoQ talked about two big things happening. The real-time API and these audio additions to chat completions. Let's start with a real-time API. What is the big deal with that one?
Imagine this. You are having a natural, just flowing conversation with your device, and it's actually keeping up with you. That's the promise of the real-time API. It merges that speech recognition and synthesis into a single process. It eliminates those clunky delays that used to plague voice interaction.
And no more of those awkward pauses where you're like, hello, did you hear me? Yeah. That's huge for user experience.
Exactly, and it opens the door to so many new and exciting applications, from like conversational virtual assistants to immersive language learning, all driven by voice.
I am already picturing myself finally mastering Italian with my language app and sounding like a natural while I am doing it. But you mentioned another big thing happening.
Right, we can't overlook the audio input and output they are adding to their existing chat completions API. This is huge for tasks where real-time speed isn't as critical, like think transcribing your latest podcast episode or dictating long emails or turning an audiobook into text.
That's a game changer for accessibility and productivity. The article that I read mentioned that the real-time API uses OpenAI's GPT-4 model and relies on a persistent WebSocket connection. Can you break that down for those of us who don't speak fluent tech?
Absolutely. Think of it this way. GPT-4 is the brain power behind the operation. And the WebSocket connection is like a dedicated phone line that's always open. This allows for a constant flow of information back and forth, much like a real conversation, enabling the AI to understand and respond in a way that makes sense with what you have already said.
Ah, so it's not just reacting to a single command or sentence anymore. It can actually remember what you've talked about earlier, which is a big step towards more natural-sounding interactions.
Precisely. And the article also touched on what they're calling function calling. It's a feature that lets developers integrate real-world actions into voice commands. Imagine saying, hey, order my usual for pickup from that new Thai place.
Yeah.
And it just happens seamlessly.
Okay, you sold me. Someone get me a voice-activated pizza ordering system right now.
Well, yeah, true.
The article did mention that OpenAI is still ironing out some wrinkles with these new APIs.
True. And no technology is perfect right out of the gate. For instance, the real-time API currently has a limited selection of voices, which, could be better for some users.
Yeah, I guess nobody wants their super smart AI assistant to sound like a robot from a bad 80s movie.
Exactly, exactly. OpenAI is working on expanding the voice options and improving their quality. And then there's this whole issue of response cutoffs, something that's also popping up with ChatGPT's advanced voice mode.
Oh yeah, I have heard about that. Like the AI just suddenly hits a wall mid-sentence. What causes that? And is that like a deal breaker?
Well, it seems that a separate model might be managing the conversational flow, which could explain those sudden endings. OpenAI is probably fine-tuning this as we speak.
Makes sense. I mean, it's still early days for this technology. But even with a few kinks, the potential here is mind-blowing. The article mentioned that the real-time API is available now for developers, and that those chat completions audio features are coming soon. And they even talked about pricing, which always makes me nervous.
Right. And it is something to consider. Audio input is estimated to cost around $0.06 per minute, while the output will be a bit pricier at $0.24 per minute. Now, for short interactions, this might not be a big deal, but for those longer conversations, especially with this whole thing about how the model has to reprocess the earlier parts of the conversation over and over, those costs could really add up.
So no marathon therapy sessions with my AI assistant just yet.
Not without a hefty bill, I am afraid.
Uh-huh.
But jokes aside, this pricing model really does raise some interesting questions about accessibility and how developers will be able to use this technology in a way that makes sense.
So I'm wondering, since the chat completions API with audio input and output is geared toward different uses, will the pricing be different? Like I'm thinking about podcast transcription and dictation and all that.
That's a great question, and something that developers are going to be watching really closely. The article didn't really get into specifics about pricing for the different use cases, but it's probably safe to say that OpenAI is looking at a few different models. After all, they will want to make this accessible.
Right. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about all the tech stuff, but I'm curious with the bigger picture here. What kind of impact do you think that this will have on how we use technology in the long run?
Well, I think we are about to see a big shift. As this voice AI gets more sophisticated and integrated into our lives, it really has the potential to break down barriers. Imagine a world where interacting with technology is as natural as talking to another person.
No more fumbling around with touch screens or trying to remember voice commands. Now, that is a future I can get behind.
Absolutely. And it is not just about convenience. Think about what this could mean for people with disabilities who maybe have a hard time with some of the traditional interfaces. Voice AI can make technology more accessible for everyone.
It's like we are stepping into a sci-fi novel, except it's actually real life. Okay, so we have talked about the tech and the potential impact. But what about everyone listening right now? What does all this mean for you?
Well, that's the exciting part. I mean, these advancements aren't just for tech giants or developers or whatever. They are tools that anyone can use to unlock all kinds of possibilities. Imagine creating a voice-activated smart home system that's made just for you.
Oh, yeah. Think about all the time I'd save not having to turn off every single light in my house before bed.
Exactly. Or picture this, you are a musician, and you can use voice commands to control your recording software while your hands are busy playing an instrument.
Okay, now you are speaking my language.
Yeah.
It is not just about convenience or making things easier. It is about creativity and accessibility, and maybe just a little bit of magic, too.
Yeah, precisely. And as OpenAI keeps working on these technologies, we can expect to see even more innovative applications. It's really an exciting time to be following AI.
It really is. Okay, deep divers, we have covered a lot of ground today. From how OpenAI's new APIs actually work to what it all means for how we use technology. But here's the thing about deep dives. They usually leave us with more questions than answers.
And that's a good thing. It keeps us curious. It makes us want to explore more.
Exactly. So as you are going about your day today, think about this. How would you use this technology if anything was possible? Would you make a voice-controlled art studio? Would you finally launch that podcast you've been thinking about with super easy audio transcription? The future of voice AI is here, and it is waiting for you. Until our next deep dive, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that imagination running wild.